It's been almost 2 years since we started Trailblaze.
That's crazy. Time flies.
Finally out of R&D.
Time flies. Yeah, no more education.
No more education. We've
right
learned
into the
hard
grind.
lessons.
A lot of hard lessons.
Learning some hard lessons this year.
Good
But we
lessons,
see some great
though.
successes.
Yeah, a lot of good lessons, I think, that we've pulled from this, and better conversations with people, and really getting an idea of what's going on, what's going right, what's going wrong, and where are the opportunities, and how do we fill and bridge that gap for them, right?
Well, yeah, and also kind of trying to figure out our niche there. Like, I know it was really, really, I think, easy. You know, if you remember 18, 19 months, even less than, where, you know, we were all still like just kind of adopting AI, systems automations and things like that.
Yeah.
Some of these things that have been around for a while, AI obviously being really new, we were still kind of figuring out, well, like, where do we stand on this whole thing? Like, how does this work for us?
Exactly. Well, everyone was kind of AI virgins, right? Well, everyone driving it for the first time, and you know, navigating your way through an uncharted territory. So we're all getting used to it, and over time, we get more experience, get a little bit better, and here we are.
Doing AI appointment setters for small businesses and trades companies.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. Although, you know, that being said, that's probably kind of one of the big wins from this year, right? Like, when we think about it, like I think about, and I don't know if we should name them or not, but like I think about mechanical flood protection, or you know, one of the plumbing companies that we service, and just seeing like the difference in not just their bottom line, although we will get to that, we will talk about that, but like just seeing the difference in their customer journey.
Absolutely.
And their client experience, right? Because like one of the things you and I talk about all the time, like we both have extensive background in sales. Yeah. Right. So, you know, we are not strangers to picking up the phone, making a phone call, asking for something. You know, that's part of our nature, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the big values that we bring to the table, is the sales knowledge and the experience going through that. Because we've had extensive training ourselves through Sandler and other programs where we've learned a lot of techniques and things that, you know, a lot of regular people and business owners wouldn't have access to. So having that experience and knowledge and information goes a long way in terms of how do we look at developing the proper systems and communication pathways for our clients working with their own clients.
Well, I think you just nailed it too. Like, I mean, when we started working with them, communication was all manual. It was all manual. Every email that was sent, every phone call, all of it. Every time a client reached out, one member of the team, whether it be the owner, the office person, somebody had to pick up that call. Yeah. Right. And, you know, when you're just starting out in business, it's really, really easy. And I'm guilty of this. I'm super guilty of this. Like, oh, website, do it myself. Oh, client communications, do it myself. Yeah. Oh, follow-ups, do it myself. 6 years in business, one of the things that I've realized is I'm really bad at follow-ups. I am really, really bad at keeping myself straight on things, like just reaching out to potential leads and customers who have not engaged with me yet. Oh, yeah. And again, you know, going back to this client, one of the things that we found, just by simply instituting, you know, a regular follow-up notification system just for their appointments, as well as reactivating their old list with new information, new offers, you know, new products and services that are now being made available. Like, we literally within less than a week saw a huge uptick in revenue.
And you were talking about basically wearing too many hats, and we see it all the time with businesses that are in, you know, early stages, but also getting into their growth stage, right? You're doing all these other things, but again, if you wear too many hats, you're going to find out that you're going to find issues and gaps where you're not as strong. Yeah. And I think when you're looking at the systems and you're looking at the follow-up, it's one of the things that a lot of businesses fail at is keeping in contact with them. But at the same time, not everyone that comes through your door is ready to buy right away. Right? And I think a lot of the times businesses aren't aware of the nurturing that is really needed for a lot of these individuals. Yeah. And that's a key thing, because someone might be ready to buy today, and that's awesome. It's not going to be a huge percentage. It's very tiny. right? But this other big percentage is ready to buy in 6 months. But how do you keep top of mind with that individual where 6 months from now, maybe they're looking elsewhere and they're doing these things, but if you're constantly in communication with them and you're feeding them advice and helpful things, you're top of mind. So in 6 months' time, you might be right at the top of that list without them having to go and navigate to other places.
Well, I mean, yeah, we talk about this often, like, again, within our own experience in sales and just, being phone jockeys, in that, like, it's first to the phone, man.
First the phone.
It's always first to the phone. It's the first person who's able to answer your inquiry, give you the right information. Even like you say, if that person's not ready to buy today, then, well, you know what? I had that interaction with Trailblaze, or I had that interaction with Jim's Plumbing. Jim answered all my questions. He was really solid about it. Didn't push me into a sales situation that I didn't want at the time. And he kept hitting me up.
Yeah.
Kept hitting me up with like, hey, did you know this is happening? Hey, did you know that's happening?
And the interesting thing is 78% of customers will go with the first business they talk to.
100%.
Over 3/4. Right? So if you're able to get first touch communication with that customer, you're going to land a lot more customers. That's the bottom line.
Period. And, in order to do that, and we see this, increasingly more and more within our own customer bases, right? And we do a lot of business to business, right? Within our own respective agencies.
Absolutely.
We deal with a lot of people who do business to consumer, right? And one of the things that we notice with business to consumer, that is somewhat different than business to business, is that you have people at all hours of the day looking for your product or service.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter if you are open 9 to 5, you close those doors at 5 o'clock, people are still looking for you. They're still looking for what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And if we are in a position, kind of like myself, right? Where, like, when I close my doors at 6:30, I am the only person who is responsible for answering a phone call, for answering that email, or anything like that. And, for myself, that can, like, there are days where that's a lot to handle.
Absolutely.
Like, and it's one of the things that we don't always realize when we're small business owners or we're in small business, is that there is this whole cycle of purchasing, of decision-making that happens completely without us.
Absolutely. 100%.
And if we're not there, if we're not ready to receive that inquiry when it comes in, 2:30 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, doesn't matter. If we're not there, that person's already moved on.
100%. And we see this all the time, right? And think about your customer. They're busy at work during the day. They don't get a free moment to contact you for your plumbing services, your HVAC, your roofing. It doesn't matter. They might have to get home. They're going to have dinner ready for the family. They're going to have to put the kids to sleep.
Yep.
And then by the time they get a free minute, it might be 7, 8, 9 p.m. at night. And again, most businesses are closing at 5 o'clock. So that gap where someone's available that they can actually take the time to reach out to a business, no one's there. Right? And that's been the biggest thing we've seen from the data that we've collected is you'd be surprised how many people are trying to call you at 9 p.m. And how many businesses right now are available at 9 p.m.? Probably less than 5%.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Maybe even less.
Maybe
right?
even.
Right? So again, super important to be available at all hours. And the greatest thing about the system we developed is, we have a lot of rock star clients, right? They do well on the phone. They're selling at, converting at 80%.
Yeah, they're good salespeople.
They're great salespeople, and that's awesome. But again, they're not working 24 hours. So when the clock hits 5 and they're not answering that phone anymore, who's answering it, right? So the great thing about the system we developed is, during the day, if you want to talk to every person coming through that line, you can. Mm-hmm. But right at 5, 6 o'clock, we can make that switch and have something that we've developed take over from all night to the early mornings until you're back in the office. We can have that handled for you at a level that you would expect from yourself.
I think that's a really important point is when we look at because we deal with a lot of these folks within trade service who are absolute tigers.
Yeah.
Absolute tigers. They're out there, they're hustling, they're growing their own business, they're taking every sales call. I mean, most of these guys and gals are the company owners.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are doing the estimates. They're the ones who are doing the quotations. We know this, right? We deal with these people. And one of the things that is kind of like uniformly an issue. And I'd raise a hands. Who loves answering email at 10:30 at night? Yeah, that's what I thought. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that we noticed with mechanical flood protection, instantly when we put a text chat on their website, our text chat, our AI assistant on their website, inquiries were being answered. People who were calling in with emergencies, and this company doesn't do emergency service, were still being handled properly and sent to the right outfits to fix their problem. Of those people, a bunch of them have called back to say, okay, we're no longer in the problem. We're not having a flood problem, but we did have one, and you were helpful. So can you come in and give us an estimate on what your product or service will do?
Absolutely.
And they've sold a couple of them.
They've sold quite a few. So I mean, the big thing is you want to be helpful for your customers at all time. We're moving into a digital age where this is going to become the norm.
That's
People expect instant responses, and
24 hours a day.
The companies that do are going to be the ones that take advantage moving forward. So this is why it's so critical, getting that differentiation factor, I think, for your business is really, how do I respond? Not just respond 24 hours a day, but at a high level, right? Where you can answer any inquiry that someone might have. They're going to leave feeling great about talking with you. And I think that's important, that little bit, even if it wasn't a human, it's still having that communication where I'm getting what I need, this is super helpful. That's going to keep them top of mind with you, right? And that's what we're trying to strive for. When you're trying to stand out amongst all your competitors and the noise of the market, is how are you going to stand out? And I think having great communication and customer service is going to mean more than ever before.
Yeah, and it's, to that point, it's not about removing the human element. It's about respecting the human element, right? We are small business owners. We both started as solopreneurs in this space. We both decided, you know what, I'll take on the 17 hats. And both realized, oh, holy shit, this was a bad idea, right? And pretty quickly at that. And so again, it's not about replacing that human element, it's about respecting it. We know that if we don't rest, we don't perform. And performance means a lot of different things in a lot of different businesses. But when it comes to, trade services or even the agency world, right? If you're up all night working on projects or answering inquiries, and you still got to be in the office first thing the next month, that doesn't change, man. Just because you did the work at 2:30 in the morning doesn't mean it disappears at 9:30. Yeah. People are still reaching out. The inquiries start coming in. You got to be on point. You got to be on site. And that's really, really difficult to do if you go through years and years and years of doing it all.
Yeah, and this also gets back to one of the biggest things that comes across the table when we're talking with these small businesses is, again, you're wearing all these hats, right? And you're probably putting in some late nights like most of us do. But so many of our clients, they are answering the phones at 7, 8 o'clock just because that's the mode they're in. But at the same time, they're losing all of their freedom, right? They hated the fact that they couldn't go to watch their little kids' Little League game because they had to answer calls that were coming in, right? So they were losing those important moments in their life, having family time, even their own time just to take a breath, right? From running a business, it's a lot. Yeah. And the freedom aspect is what keeps coming up the most.
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's one of the core drivers for both of us in creating these systems, and not just like automated CRM systems, but AI appointment setters, AI assistants, and things like that, is to take that load off. Yeah, we've both worked those 80-hour, 90-hour weeks, right? We've both spent time on our businesses when we should be spending time with our families. And when we started hearing resoundingly around every single person who we had talked to being like, yeah, I just want to catch my kid's Little League game. Yeah. Or I would really, really love it if I wasn't filling out an estimate when I'm trying to sit down for dinner. But the reality is that you're in small business, you kind of wake up every day unemployed. Yeah. Right. And so we talk about this often, right? And not just in keeping our pipelines filled, but how do we manage that pipeline once it's filled? Yeah. Because it doesn't do a business any good to be out there, to be absolutely crushing it on social media, but they can't pick up the inquiries that are coming in.
Yeah, and honestly, like we've been in marketing collectively for probably 20 years.
23, I think,
watching
combined, yeah.
how many companies in the digital marketing space, right? When you're doing social media ads, you're doing organic, you're doing SEO, you're doing all of these things, and you're getting all these inquiries. But most of the time, small businesses, they're missing anywhere between 25 to 60% of those inquiries, right? And that is a lot of business. That is a lot of money that is being left on the table every week, and we see it, right? And when we're looking at businesses that are trying to take the next step and they're looking at what they can do across the board, having these systems in place to stop those gaps, I mean, that's usually the easiest thing that we can get in place that is going to make that change.
And that will make a difference. We know that it will make a difference. You know, we like to use the analogy of your plumbing system. And when any business looks at their lead management process, and by that I mean, where are the leads coming in? Is it from ads? Is it from organic? Is it from SEO? Is it from search? All of these things. And how are we treating them as they are coming in? That's really what we're kind of focused on in trying to create smarter systems, smarter automations. You know, listen, everybody out there, when they book an appointment, gets the follow-up notification. Hey, you're booked for this time and date with this person at this place. This is standard. It's standard for every single calendar operation that's out there, for every piece of software, application, service that you can use. This stuff is standard. But there's everything else around that we really, really kind of noticed. This is where the gap was. And it's you know, not only how quickly and how accurately can we respond, but how does the customer feel when they walk away from the response? So they'd be like, yeah, I want to do business with these people, or are they feeling like, oh, I don't know.
Exactly, and that's why we developed the systems to match what needs to happen within that communication, but also the customer journey, right? Because the journey is going to be different for every different business and every type of customer. So how do we make that journey seamless? Right? And make it easy for them to get the information they need, to know where they need to show up, any of the details. They're educated on it, they're knowledgeable on it, and they have it access at any time.
That's it.
And that's super important.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, on the other side of that is, well, how are we treating that information as it's coming in? We have all these customers coming in. We're communicating with them well. Our pipelines are filled. You know, we have regular business that's coming to us every day, every week, every month. How are we as a business tracking that? Like, where are these people coming from? What are they interacting with? Is it our ads? Are they finding us through search? In which ways does our customer want to interact with us? Because, you know, like I myself, I'm a phone guy. Love WhatsApp. Love it. Love it. You hate it. You hate using it. And the reality is it's not up to either of us to make that determination. It's up to our customer, right? So if our customer is coming to us through search, we need to be aware of that, and we need to treat that properly. If our customer is coming through to us because we're doing an extensive email marketing campaign, we need to be aware of that. These systems don't just help us get the information out, they help us keep the information in.
Absolutely.
And we can start making a lot smarter decisions with our marketing, with our ad spend, with our communications. Like, maybe the way that we've been doing it up to this point is all wrong. And John, how many businesses have you worked with over the course of the last 10, 15 years, $1 million plus in revenue every year, don't have a lead management system, don't have an SOP for sales or for follow-ups, barely have an SOP for giving an estimate? And these businesses are out there making millions.
Oh, I'd say at least 100.
Yeah.
Easily. If I was to look at 100 businesses that I would speak with over the course of time that were in that level of success and growth, maybe one over the 100 comes across where I'm blown away by what they have in place, where I'm like, teach me what you're doing, because you're taking it to a level that I've never seen. It's such a rarity. And like you said, a lot of businesses we work with are still writing things on pen and paper, right? So if you were to get a team in place, how would that work if they're across town, they can't get access to data or information?
How do you even train them?
How do you train them? And that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to get across to a lot of these businesses, especially in the trades, right? It's like there's an old school way of doing things and there's the new school way of doing things. The old school way of doing things would make it really hard to grow, get people in place, train, keep them, maintain them, while all at the same time handling, everything else you have to deal with. Now, systems are in place that can handle a lot of this and get it digitized so everyone has access to it, everyone can be trained, it's a lot more accessible, right? Which means it's a lot easier to follow and do and at your standard and level. So it's trying to get across the way that we used to do things, it's changing. And we have to change with it or we get left behind. And what happens is your competitors start taking advantage of this, they leapfrog you. And then from there, who knows, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's a big reason why, or how I should say, we approached automated systems design, AI appointment setters, AI customer service agents and assistants, in trying to keep in mind this entire time, okay, how do we represent our business? When I'm on the phone, when I'm answering those inquiries, how do I approach those problems, those challenges, those pieces of information? And so it was really that, like, we took a lot from our own experience in developing kind of like the platform or the skeleton for this system. And that's kind of the reality, is that yes, it is smart in the way that it uses AI and can manipulate large pieces of data and information very quickly and very accurately. But more so, and this is going to sound a little cheesy, we had to try and figure out like how to give it a soul.
Yeah.
What makes it at all different than just, any of the other services that are out there that you can do this with?
Exactly. I mean, there's services out there that anyone can build their own platform, but the problem is if you don't have the sales knowledge and how you're going to help customers through that journey in this format, it's only going to work to a certain degree.
That's right.
Right? So we wanted to put, like you said, humanize it, put that soul into it, but also approach it with the knowledge information that we have on how do we really win over a customer when they're calling us, right? How do we be consultative? How can we help answer all the questions they might have? So again, we're helping them to a level where you're like, you are the best choice, right? And we have to make that in such a way, or if we had just a mediocre system, again, they're going to be communicating with it and then, I'm done, next, right? Which isn't the goal that we're trying to strive for. We want to make sure that if you're the first to contact, you're the first to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really well said. And so, I mean, approaching this kind of from the bottom up, like we're tightening the screws on every little piece of that journey. It's not just hey, okay, now you're interested, now we care.
Yeah.
Right, which I see so many businesses doing. And again, like it works. Like there are people who have been out there operating 10, 15 years. They've got a small team or maybe even a larger team, right? And this is how it's worked for them up until this point. But the reality, and I want to swing back on this because you made a really good point. The customer expectation has completely shifted. I remember, and it was not even growing up. Like I remember being an adult and looking at my watch and being like, oh shit, it's 5:30, I missed the bank today. Now I don't get that service. Now, obviously we're at a point now where so much of that is done online banking and things like that. There is not a lot that I need to actually go into my branch for to get serviced, to get done, right? There are some things, but the reality is that I want people to start taking a bank as their sort of model of the old way. Because the reality is the customer expectation, maybe not that you're able to give service 24 hours, but somebody can be contacted, an appointment can be set up. Because, and I know, like I've used this analogy with you before, but this is the way that I look at it. And I know there's a lot of guys out there who will definitely agree with this. It's like, this is on my list. I got to call the contractor because I need to get somebody booked in to give me a quote on the deck, right? You make that phone call when you're off work, 8:30 at night, I promise you that construction office is closed. They are, if they're answering their phone, thank God, because most of them don't.
Yeah.
And I know, you know, like as a customer of these services, the biggest problem that I have is follow-up.
Yeah.
Is having them answer my call, get back to me. I have been searching for months to have somebody come in and replace my oil tank. 4 months, 5 companies. One of them has returned my call. That's what I'm talking about. That expectation that we have as business owners is completely outdated.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
100%.
And we need to be in a position where we can put ourselves in front of these inquiries and say, okay, listen, you got questions? We've got answers. Oh, you got more questions? Let's book a call.
Yeah.
You know, let's get you over to somebody, to the subject matter expert, to the technician, whomever it is that you need to talk to, whether it's to convert that sale or to complete that service loop. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Right? We're not replacing those people. We can't. Those people are integral to your business. What we want to do is triage their day.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that when you are leaving work at 6:30 on a Friday night, you know it's handled. When you're coming in Monday morning, your calendar's full.
Exactly. And I think that's what we're seeing the most of. If it's not necessarily just taking over your sales, right? There's still a human element to it. You're still going to be booking other things beyond that. And every business is different. You might be doing different assessments, a different way of processing when you're talking with someone to figure out what the problem is and what the solution is, right? But the idea is a lot of them are going to have questions, right? Like I'm sure you have questions about getting a new water heater, right?
All the time.
All the time. And it's like,
always.
again, what are those typical questions that you might have? Maybe what brand do you use? Like what's the process? How long is it going to take?
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors. How much is it going to cost?
How much is it going to cost me? Yeah.
Right? That's probably number one you're going to get for most people is what's it going to cost, right? So imagine if you're able to communicate with them and give them those kind of rough ideas and expectations, right? Not only are you going to help kick the tire kickers out of the way, because not everyone's going to be ready for your service, right? And you know that you're taking on the calls you do, and you know the type of clients maybe you don't want. Well, guess what? During our conversations, we can throw in some qualifying questions to try to assess, are they ready to buy? Are they not worth the time? Are they maybe 6 months from now? And we should probably plan an approach to that. That's what's key, is being able to make that assessment. And that's what our AI can really do. And then if we need to book time to talk to the subject matter expert so they can go in full detail and lock it in and maybe make a home assessment or something in person, whatever that might be, we'll set that up. But again, this could be at 9 o'clock at night. No one's doing this in the office at the moment.
Right.
Right? So that's the big difference.
Yeah, nobody's even answering the phone.
No.
That's the idea. Like, and you know, the reality is, and it's so funny too. It's so funny because when we started building these systems and tying them in with the AI assistants and those other pieces of technology, that's, I think, when we started to see that full picture. Right? Like, I mean, I think it would have been really easy for the two of us to simply say, no, we do lead management, you know, we'll manage those emails, we'll manage all that inflow of data from like your capture forms and those sorts of things. And we could have left it at that. But the reality is we saw the gap in that, like, listen, nobody is going to sit here and say that email is still not the most effective digital marketing strategy on the planet to date. It still is. You just can't get away from it. But the reality is that there is more and more opportunity throughout those contact points now for us to interject, right? And we don't always have the time as people, as the business owners, to do that. We're not like, I don't know about you guys, but I am not watching my social media all day, every day. You know, I'm probably checking my messenger 2-3 times a day. Now, you hit me on email, you get me instantly. You hit me on Slack, you get me yesterday. Like that's it. That's just how I function. But the reality is, 99.9% of my customers within video and audio, it's email.
Email.
They don't call. Yeah. It's almost always email. So for myself, you know, if we're sitting down to strategize for my business, we have a really, really strong focus on how those email communications are going out, what they're crafted with, what information are we giving, what pathways are we trying to lead our customers down. Now, from your perspective, right, with an SEO, it's a little bit different, right? You're doing a different analysis. The strategy that you are bringing to the product isn't the same for every business. There's no one size fits all. I guess similar to video, there's no one size fits all. And so one of the big things that I've noticed within my own business, and I think you've noticed this within yours, is get me on the phone. It always starts with email.
Yeah.
It always closes on a phone call.
Yeah.
That's me.
Absolutely. I mean, really, we have a lot of form inquiries or people are booking in to speak with us, but normally we're not communicating with you right away on the phone, right? Because you're going to have some questions. You're basically testing the waters before you actually dive in and have a deeper call, because people don't want to waste their time either, right? Everyone values their time, especially in business. And I work with a lot of businesses and I have to value their time as well. So it's a balance, but you're right. The key is, do you have a handle over each pathway that a customer can possibly come through to communicate with you? And is that being tracked? Is that going into the right buckets, right? Where you can handle that appropriately.
Yeah.
And again, what we're finding is most businesses don't have that put together at all. So you have a leaky ship, right? You're not sinking just yet, but slowly you are
on water. Yep.
right? And what I'm seeing is there's so many opportunities that businesses have to close those gaps and start really rising to the tides.
Well, yeah, and I think when we talk about that, because I love this analogy, and I know we use it a lot, but it's a leaky plumbing system. When you look at, you know, your funnels or your service pipeline, right, and trying to keep those things full. If we have a gap in follow-up communication, that's a leaky pipe. You know, if we've got incorrect information that's being shared, that's a big leaky pipe. If we don't have a point of access, customer clicks through an ad and then there's nothing for them, I mean, there's a hole in your pipe.
Huge.
It's not even leaky. And so a big part of what we do at Trailblaze, thing one, where are the leaky pipes? We got to identify them. Where are our, not just our easiest opportunities, we always will look for the easy, fast wins, but we want to look at the whole system, a more holistic kind of view of it, and say, okay, where do systems help? Where, if anywhere, does an AI assistant help? And the reality is your business is different from Jim's, from Peter's, from Stacy's, from Jennifer's. Like, they're all different. So your needs might not be the same, which is, again, is why we don't approach systems design or agent setup from a cookie cutter, one size fits all.
And I think that brings up a really good point, and why Trailblaze is such a big component and differentiation from a lot of the do-it-yourself type of systems out there when it comes to AI and CRMs and everything. Because again, you might not have an idea of how that system needs to be in place to better suit your customers. This is part of the evaluation and strategy process that we go through to, again, we're not creating a cookie cutter model. It's, you know, every business has their own factors that separates them from another. And we have to go in and explore that to really fine tune it so it works perfectly for you. Because like you said, you might not be the same as Jim's Plumbing down the street. You might have different internal operations and how you do things with customers. We've seen it all, from different invoice systems to, you know, well, I mean, geez, it's like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're going to get. And that's why when we're talking with our customers, we're really getting an idea of how that's supposed to flow. And you might not even know that yet, right? You might not be aware of the best way of doing it, but that's what we help uncover. Those are the key things that a lot of businesses miss, that we uncover.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because it's so exceedingly rare that we speak with a business that has those pieces on lockdown, right? More often than not, they are approaching us because they do not, and they need that guidance. And the reality with that is that we are never going to pretend to be the subject matter experts on your industry, on your business. What we do know is communications and sales. Those are the things that we know well. So that is kind of the approach, or the foundation of expertise in which we start doing these analyses, right? And I mean, and that's such a big part for us. And we have had interactions, even this year alone, where it's like we've done the analysis, it's just not right. It's just, whether you don't have enough traffic coming in to really justify the expense, or you are just getting started and you don't really have your offers figured out yet. Like there's a whole myriad of things that can kind of prevent you from really realizing the full weight or gravitas of a fully optimized system. The reality is that these tend to work better or best for businesses that are either very acutely aware and are already working towards systems optimization within their own operation, or are doing the volume, looking to scale, looking to grow, but haven't figured out that secret sauce yet, right? And it's that secret sauce, that rocket sauce, that we're trying to uncover, like you say, right? That through our analysis, we're looking at all those things. Oh, geez, you've got a list here of 1,500 people that you haven't reached out to in 2 years. Why aren't we doing a reactivation campaign on them? That's an easy win. That's easy money for every business. Or the other piece is like, and this is one that we saw recently, is like, okay, you have this whole mess of forms on your website. One for this service, one for that service, one on this landing page for that offer. And the reality is they're all mismatched. Like maybe the branding's not right on each of them, or there's some disconnect between that information. One of the ones we saw really recently was they weren't tracking anything. They had no idea, like they were running ads, but they had no idea what those results were looking like.
And one thing that you brought up was the reactivation and building from a list. And it's shocking how many businesses don't have any kind of list started, right? And in a digital format, because again, that's the beauty of having a big list, is that those could be future customers again, right? Or they could help with referrals and other things. But if you're not saving that information and utilizing it down the road for other means, you're missing out potentially on 6 figures worth of revenue that I've seen just from the few businesses that set this up with.
Geez, the last one we ran within a week had made over 40 grand in revenue.
Exactly.
Right.
And it was simply just getting back in touch and being top of mind.
That's
again.
It. Oh, geez, yeah, I forgot to reach out to you guys last year. That was
it.
Literally the email that we saw come in.
Colin, how many touch points does a business or a customer usually need before they're ready to go?
8 to 12.
8 to 12. And what's the easiest way to get that in place?
Well, great question, right? Different for everybody. Different for everybody. But you just brought up, I think, the most valuable point of the whole conversation is if it takes 8 to 12 contact points to actually win a customer these days, we need to be so on point with each and every one of those touch points, what they're being told, what they're being asked to do as far as any call to action, the information that we're sharing with them, what we're educating them on. And I mean, this might sound silly, but it could be something as simple as we have a Black Friday sale, 15% off our entire catalog. We still need to think about the nuance, each step of that process. What's going to get the customer from that flyer, 15% off Black Friday, into the cart?
Yeah.
Clicking buy now or putting in their credit card details. That is what we need to be aware of. And we're not talking about this just from a marketing perspective. We're not running your ad work. What we're doing is we're paying really, really close attention to what that ad work is meant to do as far as outcome for your business, who it's targeted at, and how we're treating those targets. Are we following up with them the right way? Are we communicating them in the right way? We're not going to come in and rewrite your ad work.
No.
Although we may suggest it if we see that gap. And, and the reality is with a really, really tight lead management system. And I mean, there are tons of programs, there are tons of platforms. We're big proponents of GHL, and that's great. But there are other systems out there that can do this stuff for you. But the reality is, and I've noticed this even in my own business, is it even set up? Has anybody in your office, whether it's yourself or one of your front-end employees, gone through and actually looked at your CRM or your lead management system and said, okay, yeah, we have all this information, let's utilize it?
Yeah.
That's where we come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of businesses that we talk with, they might, again, have these things on paper or it's very loose, but getting it into a system itself, it's an undertaking. And especially if you want to handle it where you can automate a lot of the mundane and the routine things that when you stack them up over the course of a week, can be 10 hours, 20 hours, 3 hours of work at times for a lot of these businesses. So you start procrastinating and, you might half-ass a system and it's not quite where it needs to be. And that's why we're here to help develop it, right? And get it from foundational starting point and strategy into something that's going to come in and do all the things that we've been talking about this whole time.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's probably about 50-50 from what we've noticed. 50% of who we work with are people who have systems in place that are woefully under-optimized. Whereas the other half, they haven't even even thought about what this is going to look like for their business. And we're always a little bit more careful, I think, with that latter group of people, because there are kind of 3 core metrics, I think, that you and I really look at when we're doing an assessment. Is an optimized system or AI appointment center right for you, or is it not? One of them's website traffic. Yeah. One of them's social media. And the other is just your overall marketing presence. Are you running ads? Are you undertaking different avenues of marketing to try and fill your pipelines? Because the reality is if you're not doing those things, we can put an optimized system in place, but it's going to be optimized to what? We're just going to have to come back in and do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, really one of the starting points of why we wanted to develop these systems is because as digital marketers and doing this, like I said, for a collective 20 years and working with hundreds of businesses, we constantly see you can do a lot of marketing, right? You're driving traffic, you're driving inquiries, but then if you're not able to get to those inquiries, you're missing out on that business, right? So that's where these systems really come into play. When you're actually getting people inquiring and you're moving along in that direction. These systems aren't designed if you're brand new and the phone isn't ringing, no one knows you exist. You might get one person a month come across and call you. You're not ready for that level of system. You probably need the digital marketing and that kind of strategy to get people in the door first, right? So you need to talk with a marketing agency. But realistically, like I said, if you're a couple years in, you're grinding it out, you're getting referrals, you're doing marketing, you're networking, you're doing all these great things, then you're going to know from your own business, yeah, I'm dealing with 5-10 calls a day, or I'm getting a lot of inquiries through the forums or this and that. Then the systems start making a lot more sense because you're dealing with a lot larger segment of people who are now coming across your table. And how do we ensure that they're fed, right?
Yeah, I like that analogy too. How do we ensure that they're fed and that they stay fed?
Yeah.
Right. Now, I mean, typically with what we do and what we talk about, that's with information. That's with education. Leading them down the garden path, so to speak, towards the product or service that they need or that we want to sell them. And I'm thinking to one of our recent builds, and one of the things that we learned when doing, because we'd never worked with home contractor before, right? This was our first home contractor, and one of the things that we uncovered almost instantly that I think sort of surprised us both was that we started with these guys are 10+ mil every year, 30. Everything that we're talking about here, lead management, follow-up systems, a standardized quotation process, none of it. And they're just fine. They could literally keep ticking along as they are, change nothing, probably not grow a ton, but still have a very profitable home contracting business.
Yeah.
The reality is this customer came to us and they were like, no, we want to scale. We want to get bigger. We've opened a new location in another province. We're starting to do more and more specialized work, right? And so the opportunity became readily apparent. It's like, okay, we need to systemize because you guys are all over the place.
I was going to say, what made it even more interesting is when we started, they didn't even have a form on their website.
Yeah.
So the whole market of people that, you know, might have just wanted to get a couple inquiries in, a couple conversations just to kind of gauge things. Because again, we're talking about custom homes.
Millions of dollars.
We're talking millions of dollars. Like there's a lot on the line here, right? So people are going to do their due diligence. Like it's a slower process.
Yeah.
They're not,
and they're not just making one phone call.
yeah, it's not a snap decision, right? But we were losing out on so many possible inquiries because there was no form on the website.
Yeah,
Right now with the form on the website, each day there's leads coming in, right, that we wouldn't have had before because they didn't want to call right away.
Yeah.
They didn't want to make that communication.
And a good portion of them quality as well, like meaningful leads, not just, you know, bots
Absolutely.
testing out forms, which any of you have put forms on your website, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, but this becomes the value of your customers too, right? A value of that customer could be $600,000 in profit.
That's right.
Right? So if we're missing out on that opportunity and you're looking to scale and grow, we see that right away. We need to fix that. We're talking about leaky pipes. Right there's a leaky pipe because you're losing out on a ton of revenue, guys. Right? So like we talked about a lot of small businesses missing out on, you know, 25 to 60% of these inquiries and calls coming in. So take 100 calls in a month and you're only getting to maybe 25 of them and you're missing 75 of them. And we're talking $10,000 difference in a customer. That adds up over the course of the month. That adds up a lot over the course of a year.
That's right.
Right? So you could be looking at 6 figures plus of missed revenue. So what does that look like in your business if you could fill in 100 plus more in revenue, right? Are you able to hire more crews? Are you able to get new equipment? Are you able to take a vacation? Right? So it's these little things that we start looking at in terms of where a customer is trying to get to. And a lot of it is we need to improve these revenue numbers because we're doing all these great things, but I feel like we're missing the mark. And number two, the freedom, right? So those two things we're finding to be the biggest elements. And that's what these systems are designed to really do.
Well, yeah, and I think that's really kind of the point behind it too, is that we want to equip these businesses in this new digital age that's moving so quickly. We want to equip them so they're more nimble, so they don't get washed away, because there's so many people out there who are true geniuses in what they do. Like I was speaking with a dude not just last week. All he does is molding and finish work. 15 million a year, was running 5 crews, and that's all he does. And I mean, we all talk about niching down in business, but that's not what we're here for. The way he was able to do it was by being really clear about what he wants, really clear to the audience that he's trying to reach, because he's not selling his finished work to me and you as a residential consumer. He's selling them to contracting companies. Hey, you need a hand doing your finishing, your crown molding? Give me a call. My guys are the best at it, right? And so his entire business, right, is B2B, even though he is in homes for people doing that work. And so like it's really interesting to me, because there's so many different avenues, not just within trade service, but within business alone, to reach different groups of people. And the great thing about having a system in place is that doesn't matter how many groups you want to reach. They're organized. They're kept in line. We are reaching out to the right people with the right communications in the right places on the right platforms, because they've told us. They told us, we don't like email. Give me a phone call. Give me a text. They've told us, I've interacted with your ad. I am interested in this offer, by simply clicking. And so as long as we are aware of that information, and as long as we view it in the meaningful way it's meant to be analyzed, what we can do to a bottom line is incredible.
Absolutely.
Just think about it. Think about it this way. Do nothing else, change nothing in your business this year except for optimizing your system and lead management. If you could, and this is the low estimate, if you could take your revenue and you could add another 30% on top of that, this is the only change you're making in your business this year. What does that mean for you? What does that mean to your bottom line, another 30%? For a lot of people, like you say, that's a vacation. That's a new team member. That is a new piece of equipment, a new truck. You know, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different businesses. But the reality is, and because we've already seen it with our clients, we've seen upwards to 30%. We've seen a couple that are more, right? So 30% on your bottom line. This is the only change you make this year. What does that mean for you?
And it's an incredible ROI based on what we're able to get in place for little to no cost, right? One thing I want to touch upon though is the human element, right? Because a lot of businesses I think are worried that AI is going to replace all their people. And we work with a lot of businesses that have great teams, they have a great culture, and it's not something they want to see evaporate overnight. And we totally get it. Right? I think what we're looking at with our systems that we're developing isn't so much that we're out there to replace everyone, but you mentioned that fact that I can now bring on someone else, a highly skilled worker, to come into my team and help me in areas that I might not have been able to do before. And that can make a huge difference. Maybe it's having an executive assistant. Maybe it's having a new crew member that you're missing out on. Maybe it's someone that can come in and take time off your plate now that you would have been doing 40 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
Right? And that is what we're trying to get across, is our systems are able to facilitate that while allowing you to go and bring in even more skilled workers that are going to make a bigger difference, I think, overall for your business.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, I mean, listen, like neither of us are going to sit here and say, there's not one business out there that shouldn't optimize their operation. Of course, it means different things for everybody. But the reality is that exactly to your point, we have focused on what are those elements for us small business owners, for us smaller companies. We're not trying to equip McDonald's with a better customer service system. They got that, man.
Yeah.
They're on top of that. What we really want to do is we want to help Pete's Plumbing. We want to help Pete take another vacation. We want to help Pete hire on somebody else so his business can grow. And Pete can either do more plumbing or less, depending upon what Pete wants to do.
And I think what a really cool aspect of it, and that you just hit on, is, a lot of these billion-dollar international brands, they have their own systems and processes in place that help them get to where they are, right? We're bringing these facilitations, these systems, these processes down for the small businesses now. So you start getting a better playing field. Right? So you start competing with a lot of these big businesses and brands. And one thing that I want to point out is if you're especially in trades, right? And you probably know that international brand that's in your market, that's in every city across the United States.
That big franchise.
The big franchise. Yep. In every market I work with, they exist. And you know who they are, I'm sure. Right? So imagine these big businesses. Do you think they're going to be adopting, if they haven't already, these systems to help this communication level?
Absolutely.
100%. So how are you going to do things differently than them? If you're not doing this at all, huge gap, big opportunity, but the time's changing, right? Things are moving in this direction. And if they're able to talk to your customers, your potential customers first, they're getting that business, they have the systems in place, but we have the facilitation now that you can. Right.
Well, yeah, and I think it's also, to that end, it's equipping us, folks who are within our space, folks who are in our relative size. It's equipping us with the same technology, fraction of the price. Like, you're not paying $50,000 for a fully optimized system because you don't need to. Yep. For like Pete's Plumbing, and I'm sorry, Pete, I'm picking on you. Pete's Plumbing does not need a $70,000 piece of software that they're paying thousands for to license every year to keep track of this stuff. They just don't. And we've created start points, different start points for people who are at different levels. And I'm just thinking back, because if you're just getting started, you've just opened your own business, your own agency, your own firm, we've got a product that you can start playing around with this stuff yourself, right? And start figuring out how these things work or how it's going to work for you, and give you a really, really good chance, affordable chance at that, because it's cheap. And I don't mind saying that word, because we offer those accounts cheap. They're cheap because we want you to get your feet wet.
Yeah.
We want you to check it out and see the possibilities that are there before we're trying to pitch you anything.
And the beauty of our systems is, again, they're so affordable for small businesses that they see an ROI almost instantly. when a customer comes through, the whole thing's paid off, you're good to go the rest of the year. It's beautiful. And that's why we designed it too, where it becomes a no-brainer, right? That you're going to get a system in place that's going to help convert 30 plus more of your potential prospects.
I mean, we want you to realize ROI within the first 3 months, period.
Absolutely.
And if you're not, then, I mean, we got tweaking to do.
Yep.
Right? It's not necessarily about your business. It might be, but it's not necessarily. But I mean, the reality is, I don't think we've worked with a client who has stayed on board that hasn't seen their ROI within the first 3 months. Not one. Not that I can think of anyway.
Not that I can think of. And like I said, that's the great thing, and that's why we designed it in this way. We're revenue and customer service focused. So all the communication and all the touch points, it's all geared around that. That's why it's so imperative that we have these strategies in place that mold with the process that we're creating in this digital space.
And I think, you know, to that point is we both realized, like, listen, we're all for profit. We're almost all of us are for-profit businesses. We get it. But John and I have approached this from the perspective of, you want to keep the shareholders happy, you can't do that if you don't keep the customers happy. And so that really becomes a really, really big part of our approach is, all right, that's great. Like, I mean, we take your outcomes as, or your desired outcomes as kind of like our North Star, our Polaris, our guiding light. But in how we get there, it's all customer focused. How are we nurturing that customer? How are we treating them at every stage over those 8 to 12 contact points? Do they feel like they're being taken care of? And we want them, whether it's through an email, through a social media message, through a DM, whether it's through talking to the business owner or talking to an AI assistant, all of those things need to be consistent. And the reality is when you're out of the office, John, and I'm answering your phone, I'm not giving them the same level of service because I don't do SEO, right? Nobody's John Cody. Nobody's calling Alexander when it comes to selling video, right? Like there are things that I wouldn't touch with your camera, right? Which other people would be all over.
There's a lot of nuance.
There's a lot of nuance. That's the point. And so, like, at the end of the day, it's that, like, that's kind of the core thing is we want to make sure through the lens of customer service, through the lens of an improved and modernized customer journey, how do we impact your bottom line positively? And that's it.
That's it. And that really is the Trailblaze advantage, right? Where we're going and evaluating this and we're guiding you through and we're helping you through each step of the way to getting you to a point where that system is working as favorable as possible for you and your customers.
Yeah, I like to look at it as an engine, right? We want to get that engine tuned up, port and polish. It's purring like a kitten, and it's going to run you for hundreds of thousands of miles before it needs another tune-up. That's ideally where we want to get you. And I mean, the reality is businesses change. They change their offers. Sometimes they retire products and they bring new products on and things like that. The great thing about what we've designed is how quickly and how easily it can be modified. So if you do make a change or if you do decide, hey, we're not offering this anymore, no problem. It's not a whole big thing. It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll get the development team on it and they'll have that fixed up by the end of the month. No, John and I are going to jump on that. We're going to have it fixed up to you by tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of having us involved through the whole stage of this, right? Because again, there's a strategy stage, there's getting it all in place stage, but also we have to evaluate what's going on like on a monthly basis because things are going to change. We're going to notice things throughout the process that maybe needs to be refined or tweaked to improve it even more, right? We can make a lot of assumptions and guesses based on the strategies, but when we're going along, we might find something that we didn't expect or maybe you didn't expect.
That's right.
That might need to be adjusted. It could be as simple as, you know, a lot of customers are asking me this type of question all of a sudden, or like trying to get this information from us, but we don't really have it anywhere within this whole system. It's like, okay, well, let's fix that. Where can we talk about this? Where can we have it implemented, right? So that we can help those specific needs and inquiries that these individuals might have. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, but it's always keeping an eye on the prize, really.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that prize, that prize can be affected in so many ways, I guess, as part of what we've really come to notice. And I think it's part of why we stay away from the heavily customized, completely, completely built from the ground up, every single time. We have found a good handful of things that work. And so that's where we start. Then we start to move into the, okay, well, I mean, you're a little bit different. So like, let's start working in those nuances. But the reality is, at the end of the day, you and I have been sitting here selling for 30 plus years combined. Yeah. There's some things that we've learned, in that process. And we try to bring that, to every build, to every procedure, to every SOP that we roll out, and every conversation that we have with people. And I think, at the end of the day, one of the things that I get such a charge out of, or that I get such a kick out of, is when we're on that call, right, and we're doing that analysis, seeing those light bulbs go off. When we're talking to a customer and they've been in business, and this happened, they've been in business 5 or 6 years, and we're going through and saying like, okay, geez, you've got a whole list here of people who like you did service, but haven't bought service in 3 years. Going back to reactivation, like, bro, I can make you money right there. All I need is an afternoon. You don't need a full system for something like that to work for you, right? And so it becomes one of those things where we get to approach it from a very like, okay, yeah, not everything is big, customized from the ground up every single time, but we have that ability to be like, okay, John, this is a little bit different for you. Let's try this. Right? Or let's try this approach. We're not so rigidly locked in to somebody else's platform or somebody else's service and says, oh, you want to do X, Y, and Z? Sorry, we can only service A, B, and C.
Exactly.
Right. And we like, because the idea, like you said, what we're here to do, how do we help your bottom line? Not just your revenue bottom line, but your time bottom line. How do we streamline these things, make them work for you, for your business, so you can grow, so you can scale, and make dinner on time?